It started with the fish. Every morning, when I walked the shores of the small Chilean fishing town of Puerto Viejo, I'd see fewer boats returning from the sea. The fishermen who did return had smaller catches, sometimes nothing at all. The usual lively market in the town square was reduced to whispers, worried conversations about the future. Some blamed climate change. Others whispered about illegal overfishing by larger fleets in nearby waters, but nothing added up. The sea had always provided, even during the hardest times, but not now. I'm Dr. Laura Ortega, a marine biologist. I've spent my life studying the ocean, understanding its rhythms, cataloging its species. The world below the surface has always fascinated me. The deep, the unknown, the mysteries that still lie there, untouched. But this felt different. The sea wasn't just changing, it was emptying. I first noticed something wrong about a year ago. Fish populations had been dwindling all along the southern coast of Chile. At first it was gradual, manageable. Then, over the span of a few months, it became catastrophic. Boats went out full of hope and returned empty. Fishing nets, usually heavy with mackerel, anchovies, and squid, came back tangled with seaweed and debris, sometimes torn to shreds. Entire schools of fish had vanished. In my professional capacity, I'd worked with these fishing communities for years, collecting data, tracking migration patterns, studying ecosystems. So when the mayor of Puerto Viejo, a man named Luis Calderon, called me to investigate the collapse of their fish stocks, I couldn't refuse. It was during our preliminary research that the old fishermen started to speak, quietly, cautiously, about something they called La Bestia de las Profundidades, the beast of the depths. At first I dismissed it as local superstition, folklore passed down through generations. But when they talked about strange movements in the water, massive shapes barely visible beneath the surface, and the eerie stillness that followed, I began to reconsider. These weren't tales for children. These were warnings. The final straw was when Luis the mayor disappeared. He had gone out with a small crew one early morning, determined to prove that the waters weren't cursed, that the fish would return. The boat was never found. A few pieces of wood washed ashore, twisted and splintered as if crushed by some enormous force. That was when I knew we had to go deeper, literally. We needed to know what was happening beneath the waves. I assembled a team. Santiago, a marine geologist and my longtime colleague. Marta, an expert in deep-sea ecosystems. And Victor, an engineer specializing in underwater submersibles. Together we had the knowledge, the tools, and the experience to figure out what was happening. But nothing could have prepared us for what we found. We launched the expedition from a small research vessel, El Descubridor, equipped with sonar, deep-sea drones, and a submersible capable of reaching depths of over 5,000 meters. The plan was simple. Dive deep into the trench, where the original Bloop sound had been recorded in 1997. A sound so loud and so low frequency, it had baffled scientists for years. Officially, it was written off as ice movement, but I always had my doubts. Now, with everything happening, I wondered if the Bloop wasn't just a noise. Maybe it was a call from something ancient. As we neared the coordinates, the water began to change. The sea became darker, more opaque, like something thick had seeped into it. Our sonar equipment picked up strange readings, empty patches where there should have been schools of fish, unnaturally deep gouges in the ocean floor. Santiago stared at the data, confused. "This doesn't make any sense," he muttered. "There's nothing here." But the ocean doesn't just go empty. Our first descent went without incident. We sent down a drone fitted with cameras, its small lights cutting through the gloom as it drifted deeper into the trench. The feed showed barren, lifeless stretches of seabed, devoid of the usual creatures you'd expect at those depths. No fish, no crustaceans, no scavengers. It was like everything had fled. Then, the drone found something. The footage was grainy at first, difficult to make out, but as the camera adjusted, we saw it. Scars. Massive, unnatural gouges in the ocean floor, as though something had scraped its way across the seabed, carving deep trenches. The patterns were too regular to be caused by shifting tectonic plates or landslides. Santiago's voice trembled over the radio. These marks, they're deliberate. That's when the drone feed cut out. At first we thought it was a technical glitch. Victor tried to reconnect, but there was nothing, just static. Marta was staring out at the dark water, her face pale. "It's not just fish that are missing," she whispered. "Everything's gone." We decided to go down ourselves. I know, in hindsight, it sounds reckless, but we were desperate for answers. We thought we could handle it. We were wrong. The submersible creaked as we descended into the abyss. The deeper we went, the more the light from the surface faded, until we were surrounded by pitch-black water. I watched the sonar, my heart pounding with anticipation. Nothing, no movement, just the deep, silent void. Victor kept adjusting the lights, trying to pierce the darkness. But it wasn't until we reached a depth of 3,000 meters that we saw it. Something massive, something alive. At first it was just a shadow, a distant, impossibly large shape, moving slowly through the water. The sonar pinged erratically, unable to give us a clear reading of its size. But we could feel it, an overwhelming presence. It was as though the water itself was vibrating, a low-frequency hum reverberating through the sub. Santiago checked the instruments, his face pale. It's like it's watching us. I didn't need to be told. I could feel it too. This wasn't some mindless creature of the deep. Whatever it was aware of us, and it was hunting. Suddenly, the submersible shook violently, throwing us against the walls. Victor frantically tried to regain control, but something had latched onto us, dragging us deeper. The lights flickered, and through the dim glow we caught a glimpse of it. It was massive. A creature far larger than anything I'd ever imagined, larger than any whale, larger than any submarine. Its body was covered in thick, bioluminescent patterns that pulsed in the dark water, lighting up the abyss in a sickly glow. I saw rows of what looked like gills, each one opening and closing with a slow, deliberate rhythm. And then its eyes, cold, intelligent, predatory. The bloop wasn't just a sound, it was the call of this thing, and it wasn't alone. As we were dragged deeper, the sonar picked up more of them, dozens of enormous shapes, circling, moving with purpose. They were hunting in packs. This wasn't just survival, it was strategy. The submersible's metal hull groaned as the creature's grip tightened. I could hear Marta sobbing quietly behind me, Victor shouting something incoherent, and Santiago muttering prayers under his breath. I could feel the pressure building as we were dragged deeper, the water crushing in on us, squeezing the life out of the sub. My mind raced. What was this thing? How had it survived for so long undetected in the depths of the ocean? And why now? Why was it waking up now? The sonar pinged again. More of them. Hundreds. They were waking up. Just as I thought the sub would implode, the creature released us. We drifted for a moment, weightless in the dark, the silence almost worse than the noise. And then, from the depths, I heard it. The bloop. It wasn't a single sound. It was a chorus, a low, rumbling primal call that resonated deep in my bones, shaking me to my core. It was a warning, a threat. We were intruding on their territory, and now they were coming for us. We managed to bring the submersible back to the surface, but not without damage. The hull was cracked, the instruments destroyed. Victor was barely conscious, Santiago in shock, and Marta refused to speak. I radioed for help, but as I spoke into the receiver, I realized something horrible. The creatures weren't just in the depths anymore. They were rising. The ocean was no longer a safe place. The fish hadn't fled. They had been consumed. I don't know how long we have. These creatures are ancient, powerful, and they're not bound by the limits of time like we are. They've been waiting, lying dormant, and now, with the changing climate and the shifting waters, they've awoken, and they're hungry. I don't know if anyone will believe this story. I don't know if it will make a difference. But if you're reading this, stay away from the water. There's something out there, something that's been hiding in the dark for longer than we can comprehend. And now, it's coming.